So this is part 3 of The Cat Who Got Carried Away by Alan Alberg, and the other 2 parts are on the channel, and this is going to start at chapter 8. So the last chapter we read was chapter 7, and with lots of funny goings on with that pet shop that isn't really a pet shop, and the children on a run. Mrs. Gasket's got a funny look on her face, and they've all just got to the middle of the morning. So this is chapter 8. Clever Randolph, and Randolph was the rat that got stolen from the children's classroom. Horace, Morris the guinea pig, and Randolph the rat were hiding behind a litter bin next to a bus shelter. Randolph was very thoughtful, Morris was very gloomy, and Horace was getting carried away. "It's like in a movie," he cried. "The incredible journey where these pets travel thousands and thousands of miles to get home." "Was one of them a guinea pig?" said Morris. "I can't remember," said Horace. "Anyway, we could do that. We could hide out in a barn, we could follow the stars at night, and we could have adventures." But Randolph only coughed, and he rubbed his little chin. "No, I've got a better idea," he said. There's the picture. And there's somebody's put a poster up saying "lost dog." Maybe the dog is one of the ones they've taken away in the pram. Meanwhile, outside the zoo, Uncle Sid was whizzing along with a pram full of penguins. Yes, penguins. He was supposed to get parrots, but Uncle Sid had always wanted a penguin, or 2, or 8. So can you see all those penguins in that pram? What a noisy pram that's going to be. Anyway, there he was whizzing along when who should he spy out of the scout hut but a little tiny, tied-up, spotty, dozy dog. "Room for one more," said Uncle Sid, and he grabbed the little dog and just pushed him in the pram with the penguins, when around the corner came Gus and Gloria, Tracy and Billy and a few others, and meanwhile also Mr. and Mrs. Gasket were driving by. They spotted Gus and Gloria and waved at them, but they couldn't stop. Mr. Gasket was taking Mrs. Gasket to the hospital. "What's wrong? Is she poorly?" "She doesn't look poorly, because she's smiling. Look there, so she's going to hospital, she's smiling." Meanwhile, also, the number 9 bus was... Things are getting a bit complicated, do you think? Perhaps we could do with a map. Map 3. See, there's the pram with the van. With the pram with the van. Where's the van? Parked around the corner. You can see it's just hiding there. There's Gus and Gloria and the other children, including Mr. Cruncher, and there's Mr. and Mrs. Gasket in the car, and there's the number 9 bus. And can you see on the number 9 bus? This is a special picture because it shows you what's going on. So there's the bus, and then it's shooting out a little arrow for a close-up zoom angle of who's sitting on the bus. And who's sitting on the bus? There on the bus, side by side, cosy, safe, and sharing a bag of crisps, there's Horace and Morris and clever Randolph. So I think his idea was to catch the bus. Number 9, running like the wind. But what happened next, you'll say? Well, let's see. Uncle Sid whizzed off with his once more barking pram. That little dozy dog was wide awake now, and like a rocket he went round the corner, down the street, up the ramp, into the van, and away. After him ran Gus and Gloria and Billy and Tracy and Marigold and Mary and Tom and Rupert and Buster and Polly and Esmeralda and Mr. Cruncher and a few others. And so the race began. The race between a van and children. Yes, it was much closer than you would think. See, the children were young and strong, and they ran like the wind, and Mr. Cruncher was proud of them. Meanwhile, the van was old and stolen, and it failed its tests. So with the traffic lights and zebra crossings and so on, Gus and Gloria and the others kept up with it, down this road, down that road, up this hill, over that bridge, all the way to the next town. In fact, all the way to Honest Joe's pet shop. Honest Joe, meanwhile, was hard at work serving a customer. Suddenly in burst his honest mother, and with a little grumpy dog, 4 or 5 penguins. "Penguins!" cried Joe. "Where are the parrots?" And a whole classful of hot and steaming kids, not to mention Mr. Cruncher. Then the battle began. Well, it wasn't much of a battle. Honest Joe's mother tried to sneak off, but tripped up over a penguin and was sat on by some of the bigger girls, so they've caught her. Honest Joe punched Mr. Cruncher in the tummy, but he wished he hadn't, because look, Mr. Cruncher's got a solid muscle tummy and he's hurt his hand. Honest Uncle Sid looked at the odds, he shrugged his shoulders and he gave up. I surrender, he said. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mrs. Gasket was in bed again. A doctor with a stethoscope was listening to her tummy. What's going on here? Let's have a listen too, shall we? Where am I? What's happening? It's very dark in here. I could just eat a donut. Here we go. It's getting lighter. Where? So there we are. Did you guess? At 1:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday in September, Mrs. Gasket and Mr. Gasket too had their baby, little Gary Gasket. Brown hair, blue eyes, 7 pounds 12 ounces. Look at that cutie in there. He's got a little tiny blue stuffed rabbit. And the next chapter is chapter 10, and we're going to read that in the next part.